Well, hello again, everyone. We're going to spend a minute today talking about some group coaching activities. You're probably familiar with individual leadership development or business advisory type work, but today my guest is going to share with us some ways to think about getting your whole team pulled together. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. This is Doug Thorpe, and you're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense. It's a pleasure to be back with you again. And as you heard at the top, we're going to be doing some work at the group level, team level, and my guest today is Mr. Chris Williams. Chris is calling us from his base in Tennessee. Chris, welcome to the show.
Doug, it's so great to be here, and all you Doug fans out there, great to connect. Thanks for letting me hang out.
Yeah, you bet. I'm really looking forward to this. We've had some fun chatting leading up to this. Chris, I've got a little bit of a tradition on this show. I always ask my guests first to kind of give a little bit of a backstory about your journey and how you either got the revelation for what you're doing now or the inspiration. Tell us about that.
I did it the wrong way. That's just the worst answer ever, but man, it's the truth. I feel like such a failure sometimes. So here's what happened for us. I knew what I was doing. I was running a digital agency, and I was figuring out how to work a lot less and make more money in a creative digital marketing agency. I read the 4 Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss. Shout out, Tim. I know you're a big listener for Doug. So Tim Ferriss's book, The 4 Hour Work Week, changed everything for me. It took me from 16-hour days down to 4-hour days, and then down to, I don't know, maybe 60 to 90 minutes a week in that agency now. So people started asking, Chris, how do you do that? Like, why do you have so much free time? How are y'all traveling all the time? It's the summertime. We're recording this right now. We're traveling up and down the West Coast. That's why I'm not in the studio today. It's crazy. So what we're doing is not that revolutionary. I just figured out how to run a digital agency with a higher profit margin in less time. Okay. By the way, I'm not plugging anything. I do not teach that mastermind anymore. But my first mastermind was teaching how I was doing that. But the reason I messed up early on, Doug, is I took what I was learning and I turned that into a series of e-courses, e-books, like just trying to make it a low ticket info product. And I did it wrong. After several years of doing that, building 5 different e-courses platforms, spending over 100K in ads, all that stuff that we try to figure out, I finally went to a mastermind as a student in Boise, Idaho. And I was there with 50 other people and a guy who leads a big organization and has a great mastermind. And I thought all of them were doing this low ticket funnel stuff. But I told them what I was trying to accomplish. And they're like, Chris, how's the mastermind? I was like, it's great. Been here 30 minutes. I'm so glad I get to be here. Like, no, how's your mastermind? I was like, guys, I don't have a mastermind. And they're like, oh my gosh, we didn't start with low ticket building huge audiences. We started with the highest rung on the ladder, which is a mastermind, built everything down from there. Because that got cash flow, profitability, confirmation that their market was solid, the messaging, the sales process, everything, and you get paid to build. So 8 weeks later, I had a mastermind. Like, I just dove right in. And since then, that's all we focused on, is building our own and teaching people how to do that.
That's awesome. So, I know there are people out there that are kind of tired of the traditional slog, getting up, going to work, punching the clock even, or even if, you've created a small business, you're still working for yourself. Basically, you're still creating a paycheck. How do you inspire people to dive in and join one of these masterminds? I mean, what are you really trying to help them overcome when they come together in that group?
Here's the thing, Doug. I thought, as I was a small business owner as well, when I first started this whole vision for, I should start selling information. And again, shout out to Tim Ferriss. The 4 Hour Work Week, I was just trying to work less. I was running a digital marketing agency. But he planted the seed of, oh, you cannot just work less in your done for you work. If you own a dry cleaner or a marketing agency or a doctor's office, whatever your thing is. You don't have to just figure that model out, the local thing. People will pay you not just to do the service, but to learn how you built that whole thing. Like how you built that thing is really valuable to other people trying to build the same thing. So I realized, oh my gosh, the real money isn't in owning a done-for-you digital agency. The real money is in teaching people how to build and grow that big done-for-you digital agency thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 it does. And I find that interesting because I've been in the social media world now for quite some time with my own coaching practice because I am a big fan of thought leadership and sharing information, getting it out there. I've had people ask me, they go, yeah, but Doug, where does it end? I gave you a specific example. I've got a good friend who's a very successful CEO. He's been in the private equity realm for a long time and doing turnaround deals. What he told me was, he said, this social media stuff, all this online digital thing, he said, somewhere somebody still has to make things. I mean, real things. We have to produce goods, tangible goods, fixed assets, hard goods, and all that to make the economy tick. And, how many information providers can we really have?
Great question. So there's a lot of goods and services out there. I get what he's saying, but I have 5 kids. 3 of them are college age. The other 2 are fast approaching that. And they're in school, get an education. I know that someday they have to produce something, right? Education for itself is no good. But at the same time, I know that the value of education they're receiving, or the relationships they're building, the network they're creating, whatever you want to call it, the experience, whatever, that's a real product or service. And I'm more focused right now as an entrepreneur, as a leader, in teaching people how to fish than giving them a fish. So as someone who teaches people how to build education products, in essence, I teach experts how to build high-ticket masterminds. I'm teaching people how to fish versus handing them the final product. And ultimately down the road, yeah, there's got to be something final produced, but that production sometimes is just a mindset change. It's teaching someone a skill to sell, to close a deal, to get a lead, to hire a staff member. Those are viable products. They're just not physical, tangible products. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And
I mean, this right here, what we're doing, this is a viable product. You and I, we know enough about funnels and people and selling. We could sell this episode in a series of educational programs. It'd be super easy because this episode will change a certain number of people's lives, and some it won't resonate with, and that's okay.
Right.
But this is the product. This is the product, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. And I chuckle with my friend, and we have a good spirited debate. He doesn't discourage me at all, but he even says my first 20 years in the banking world, he said, I wasn't doing anything. I was just pushing paper, and I'm going, we finance billions and billions of dollars of commerce in America. And, I think somebody would call that valuable.
Yeah. And getting a loan for a house is a real product. I understand where the physical product people are coming from, but truly most of the things in the world around us now, truly it's information more than the physical. I mean, this is an expensive little flat screen thing I have in my pocket like you do, but none of us pay the big money to have this Apple phone in our pocket because of the box. We pay for the information that streams on it. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as was consistent with Steve Jobs' original vision, he wanted to change the way humanity interfaced with technology. He didn't want to produce a phone or a computer.
No,
that wasn't his objective. And that's interesting. So I'm curious, when people reach out and show up, what's their usual story? What are they hoping to accomplish?
Most of the people in our world are building an expert-based business model. They've either already been speaking, consulting, leading podcasts, doing whatever they do. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm burnout. I need a higher profit margin way to spend my time, a lot less time, a lot more money. Masterminds are brilliant at that. They're also a much faster way to change people's lives. So typically the type people who join our program and learn about building your own mastermind, they're so hyper-focused on their clients' transformation. They're just looking for, what is the model that's going to change my clients' lives the fastest? And the research is super straightforward about it. People change and transform 5 times faster in group settings than they do in one-on-one coaching sessions, for instance. It's just more effective. That's why group therapy sessions are so effective versus one-on-one therapy sessions. And I've done both personally. But going to a group facility for a week in a therapy setting, for any of you who've experienced that, I'm super open about that. If you need therapy, go get it, folks. No shame in that. Going to a week-long in-person session is worth a year of one-on-one sessions because you change in a group. And people who are really focused on, what is my client's journey and how do I make people transform and actually catch what I'm trying to teach them, they eventually catch on to, I'm going to put these people in groups because it just works out better.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole, even peer-to-peer, there's a lot of words for it: mastermind, peer-to-peer advisory, roundtables. There's a lot of words that people use for it. The point is, it's that exchange with a larger group. And, I know in the ones I've led, and I've got a couple I'm leading right now, the first big aha moment is when somebody shows up and they hear somebody else's story, and then they turn around and say, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm not, I thought I was weird thinking what I'm thinking, but listen to this. And I'm not alone in this. And wow. Okay. And there's like this freedom release in realizing that.
Man, like I was mentioning earlier, when I was my first mastermind I ever attended, that was my experience. I thought going into that, flying to Boise, Idaho, getting settled into my seat there at that headquarters location, just like in the process, I thought, I'm going to be so embarrassed and feeling so much shame walking into that room because I thought it was a bunch of people who figured out low ticket funnels, right? It was a ClickFunnels group. I'm happy to say that. Russell Brunson's group is freaking amazing. The thing I learned, though, is that, yeah, they might have been in that place currently in their business when I was there, but they started out struggling like me. And I wasn't the only guy who couldn't figure it out because I was doing it from the ground up versus the top down. And it normalized my experience, and it made their advice to me, not even Russell Brunson's or the other leaders in the community, but like the other mastermind participants, I learned more from them than I did from the leadership. And Russell says that going in, and that's been true in my masterminds that I lead as well. It's not me being the smartest expert in the room. It's the people I put in the room with you that are going to change your life. And any of you listening in, if you're thinking about having your own mastermind, you honestly will bring 15, 20% of the shock, awe, and wow, and amazement. The other 80%, the majority of it is going to be the people that are there together that you select to be in your group, changing each other's lives. You're just keeping that train on the track.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Well, without getting into necessarily all the throes and details of your program, can you share some of the, the basic sort of entry points or mindset shifts that have to happen to make the outcome successful?
Yeah, let me give you 2 different tracks to think on. One is the 3 things you have to be a successful mastermind leader. Pretty straightforward. You got to be a great communicator. And Doug, I don't mean this in a self-serving way. I mean this just in a just plain old honest way. You and I are good communicators. We love looking at a camera and a microphone and just going at it, right? Yeah. We're camera hogs. Okay. You got to be a good communicator. So if any of you listening in are good communicators, that's step number 1. If you're going to lead a group, you got to be able to communicate, right? Number 2, you got to be somebody who actually is an expert in something, because people in your group are joining your group because they think you've already walked that path. If you've done that, you can teach somebody else how to do it, right? Okay. Number 3 is you got to be a natural giver. If you hate giving and investing in people's lives, and I don't mean that to say someone who doesn't like that is not a good person. But some of us prefer, for instance, to be in front of a computer screen coding all day and don't enjoy one-on-one interaction or group interaction. If you like giving to people, though, and being involved with people's lives and the transformation, you will love teaching a mastermind. Okay. You got to be an expert, awesome communicator, got to be a natural giver. That's the kind of person that succeeds at building a mastermind. Doesn't matter what size audience you have or don't have. That doesn't matter. What matters is those three things. The other track, do you have any questions on that before I go down?
No, that's spot on. Yeah.
Okay. The other big mindset shift, and this is one of the biggest ones, is you got to shift from thinking that one-on-one coaching is more valuable to the recipient than group coaching. All right. Mastermind, group coaching, call it what you want to call it. We're talking legit where you're investing in 10, 15, 20 people at a time. You got to shift the mindset that groups are weaker than one-on-one. Honestly, Doug, it wasn't until I was in Russell Brunson's group that I didn't know it until then. I was so skeptical about joining that group because it costs a lot of money. And I thought, this dude's just so freaking good at sales, whatever. That's why I'm in the group. No, it actually is legit. The group thing works better than the one-on-one thing. And when I made that shift as a coach and a consultant, because I was doing a ton of coaching consulting then, and I realized, okay, the best thing I can do for my people is put them in a group. Not only does it free up my time and make me more money, that's great, but it actually changes their lives. That mindset shift, you have to get there. And there's so much research around this. It's easy to get there logically, but sometimes it takes people an experience in a group setting before they actually catch it in their hearts. And that's an important shift.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's some big national brands out there that, and from a large business executive standpoint, I think of like our friends at Vistage.
Yeah.
Big brand, popular brand. A lot of people have spent a lot of money over the years participating in those groups. Those are a little more oriented to somebody owns and operates a business. And so they're coming to the mastermind to do some peer-to-peer work, talk about best practices, do some things. They're not really trying to become a leader of other masterminds, although it's not uncommon for those guys to eventually roll out and of what they're doing and join Vistage as a chair, as a table chair. But what I'm hearing you talk about is your area specifically is a little bit different from that, because you're trying to encourage others to maybe launch out and do the same thing.
Yeah. And for those of you who've been in a group like Vistage or some other mastermind, again, we all have good and bad experiences with anything we've tried in the past. With the car you purchased, a relationship you were in, a mastermind program you're in, whatever. We all have good and bad. Just because I bought a lemon of a car in 1997, it was a Mazda 929, I think. That doesn't mean I hate Mazdas. We've actually had 2 Mazdas since then. You got to find the right one, right?
Right.
Same with coaching groups. But if you've been involved in something that's been positive group experience, you probably, if we're all entrepreneurs here, we start realizing, what's the business model behind this? Why are they doing this, right? And you realize this is working for us as a community, and this is totally crushing it for the person who's leading this. And if you catch that vision and you want to lead and influence others to make significant changes or to take huge steps forward in their businesses, masterminds are a really great model. I only teach business-oriented people how to build masterminds. I don't teach more, I don't teach therapists or relationship coaches or more woo-oriented physical coaches, whatever, how to teach groups. I only teach business people how to do it, but it works in any model.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Chris, we're already up on a break point here. We're going to continue this as we come back after the break, and just hang in with us, everybody. We'll be right back.
Business is all about solving complex problems as fast as you can create them. Become the best problem solver by leading others to greatness too. And the first step is going to DougThorpe.com. Doug Thorpe is known globally for coaching entrepreneurs and business leaders, improving their performance and the work output of everyone surrounding them. You can find health, wealth, and happiness by learning to lead others to health, wealth, and happiness. Go to DougThorpe.com now and order Doug's books or hire him to coach your managers. That's DougThorpe.com.
Well, hello again, everyone. We're back. I'm talking with Chris Williams, and we're talking about the power of mastermind groups. And if you're in a situation running your own business and see an opportunity for creating something like that, maybe as an addition or heck, even a new chapter in your business life, it's a great thing to think about. So, Chris, as we kind of went through in the first half, sort of the principles and the theory behind it all, let's get practical here. So, you know, I'm a coach. I want to launch out and I want to create a mastermind. Let's start with, how should I go about finding leads to talk to about that?
Good question, Doug. So we all know how hard it is to find one new client, maybe 3, 5 new clients. If you tell somebody you're going to get 10 new coaching clients one-on-one this month, they're going to be like, look, just shoot for a goal that's reasonable, right? A smart goal. So when it comes to building a mastermind, you think, dang, I got to get 10, 15, 20 clients all at once. When was the last time you did that? So here's how this works. You don't actually need 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 people on a list. Most of the people who we teach how to build masterminds don't have huge lists. I bet 1/3 of the people in each group, we take 15 people at a time to do our process. 1/3 are 5 of them are large influencers that are known all over the market. The other 2/3, 10 of them typically, don't have an audience. They're experts. They know what they're doing, but nobody's listening. You only need 100, 150, maybe 200 people on a target list to bring 10 people, 15 people into a mastermind. The world has made it so easy for you to find ideal clients and start meaningful relationships with them on so many platforms. And you might say, Chris, well, I'm really comfortable on LinkedIn, but I'm not on Facebook. Or Chris, I love TikTok, but I hate LinkedIn. It's too businessy for me. Are my people on TikTok? Yes, I promise. Whatever platform. Or I like podcasting. I'm on this cool thing called Podmatch or Matchmaker.fm. Are they there? Yes, I promise. They're everywhere. All we got to do is help you identify those people and show you a process to get 10, 15, 20 people all on board at one time. The cool thing is, Doug, where I'm trying to go with that is, we all have to stop and take our mind away from, I have to launch some big online event, online summit, email sequence, free product plus shipping to get a lot of email addresses and pressure launch. No, you don't. High ticket sales, which masterminds are expensive, they are high ticket sales. High ticket sales work because of relationships, not because of a cool 3-part video series and a bunch of nice copy and email sequence. We didn't have a website, Doug, until our 6th mastermind. We were 6 masterminds in it, a year and a half in, before we even built a website, because it doesn't matter. What matters is I know who my ideal participant is, and I reach out to them directly and build a relationship and invite them. It's that simple.
So if somebody does have an email list, and let's just, for round numbers, let's say they got 1,000 names on it, are you saying you make a sweep through that with a general announcement that a mastermind's being formed, and here's some of the parameters of it, and here's what we're looking for? You know, do you know anybody that would be interested in doing something like that? Is that the ask?
Yeah, you could. Here's the truth about most email lists. They're pretty bad. The people on there don't quite know why they're still on there, and they're probably not opening most of the emails anyway. And if they are, they're not really taking action. You know, our click-through rates, if they're 50%, if somebody's opening, let's say 500 of the 1,000 people on the list are opening the email, that would be exceptionally high. It's probably like 200 people on that list.
Right.
And the people who are actually clicking a link or taking any kind of action or responding is probably just a couple of percent of that number.
Right.
So a better way than going after your email list, we hardly ever recommend shoot your email. Sure, let them know. But a better way to do that is to go to cold audiences that have never heard of you and do direct outreach. For instance, right now on LinkedIn, pick a platform. Let's just pick LinkedIn. Facebook, I don't care. It's so easy for me to find the ideal prospect for me because everybody in the world literally labels themselves on social media platforms. Here's who I am. Here's where I live. Here's what I do. And then most of us try to brag a bunch about how cool we are and how well we do it. So it's pretty easy to start seeing, oh, this person's all BS, or they're legitimately having some success. I'd like to work with somebody who's having some success. And then you can do a direct message and start a conversation. Hey, I see what you're doing. That's very cool. Here's what I'm doing. I'd love to connect sometime. I'm not saying send messages to 1,000 people and drop your link and say, please see my funnel, buy now. I'm saying be legitimately authentic and real. I see you. I see that we have some things going on here. I think there's a reason for a conversation, but before we get in the conversation, can I ask you a few more things about what you're doing so I can find out if this is a reason for us to waste 15 minutes on a call? People who are ready and right for your message and your offering will stalk you for a minute, and then they'll respond to your message and say, yeah, here's a little more what I do. Tell me about what you do. It's so straightforward and simple. Yeah, there's scripting and theory and strategy behind it, but it's relationships.
So it's basically about hitting the platform and doing some of that searching for, and all the platforms have some search type tools you can use to sort of narrow down the prospect list there that you might want to reach out to, right?
Absolutely. It's so much easier than people think. And we often, as in any high ticket sales or outreach marketing process, we often look at the process through our own lens. For instance, in high ticket sales, people have a hard time selling high ticket offers. And let me define it. A high ticket offer for this conversation right here is something that scares you. How much is a high ticket offer, Chris? What number scares you? If I told you I'd love for you to be in my mastermind, Doug, I'm not going to ask you for a number. And I said, it's expensive. If you say, Chris, how much is it? If I said 5,000 and that scared you, that's a high ticket offer. If I say 50,000 that scares you, that's a high ticket offer. If I say 5 million that scares you, that's a high ticket offer. High ticket is what messes with your head as the salesperson, because we impose our own marketing, outreach, and sales mentality on others based on our own feelings about that. But Doug, you know, and I know, and all you listeners know, we feel a lot when we're outreach and doing prospecting and selling, but it's not about me. It's about, is this message and what I have to offer resonating with that person on the other line? Because I'm an expert in building masterminds. I don't think very often about what I need to learn to lead my mastermind that starts next. I've forgotten more than most people know about that. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that we're all experts in our own field. Think about where you are.
That happens.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think that my outreach messaging might be a little dumbed down or not good enough or not zingy enough for people, but it doesn't matter because I'm reaching them where they are. They don't have a mastermind yet, or they have one, they want to be more effective at it. All I have to do is reach my prospect at the starting point. And that's very basic. And so when we just remember to always put your prospect's goggles on and go back to where you were 10 years ago and think, what would help this person? What would help me 10 years ago be successful? That's what I want to reach out to you and say, can I help you with this?
I think closely related to that, and I deal with this with my own coaching for business owners and executives. There's this thing we call the imposter syndrome. People either start a business or they get promoted at work and they lean into it and they realize the scope of everything and the dynamic, and they start thinking to themselves, oh man, if people only knew how little I know about this, and why me, why did I get into this? And there's this sense of, and people start talking about the fake it till you make it kind of mindset, which, by the way, officially for the record, I hate that term, but
I agree. I'm with you there.
That's another subject for another day. But nonetheless, the imposter syndrome is very real in people's minds. And I would think the idea of creating and leading, or trying to, I'll use for the moment the word sell a mastermind idea. I think a lot of people stumble on that because of that, their own imposter feeling. It's like, why should I ask somebody to pay me $15,000 for this thing? Man, I don't know that I've got $15,000 worth of good stuff to share.
I thought that too. Let me go back to this ClickFunnels mastermind story. So what totally freaked me out in that room in the first 30 minutes was when I told people, here's what I'm trying to do. I figured out how to run a digital marketing agency, which most of them own that digital marketing agency. At that point, I was working maybe 2 hours a week, and I was traveling the world every single with our kids like we do now. And I want to teach people how to do it. Most of the hands in that room, 50 people, who could all afford a $15,000 mastermind, let's say, they said, if you start a mastermind like that, I will join, I will join, I will join, I'll join, I'll join. And I was like, you mean y'all will join a mastermind? I'm going to teach you how to build systems and hire teams and like get your life back. They're like, yeah. It's like, why? Like, because we're all working 18-hour days. I'm like, but that's so easy to do that. Like, no, Chris, it's easy for you. It's not easy for most. So here's the imposter syndrome thing and the fake it till you make it thing. You don't have to fake it till you make it. You don't. You already are an expert at something. The thing that you could probably sell and teach someone to do in a mastermind is the thing you think is the easiest thing in the world to do. Because you're the 1 in 1,000 who was born that way or was willing to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to get there. That's everybody listening right now. You have that thing. If you think, well, Chris, I own a business that sprays lawns for weeds. Cool. I promise you, there are so many small to mid-sized lawn spray companies in America that wish they could get more clients tomorrow and wish they could hire the right team members and find the right truck and the right spray gear and get the right deals on chemicals. You could build a mastermind on how to run an effective lawn spray company because you know how to do it. And they're horrible at it. They got into just how to pick up truck and got some chemicals and sprayed one day, and all of a sudden they had a business. That's how most of us start, right? So find your zone of genius. Don't fake it. You already got it.
Yeah. I like that. And I think that is so important, and not to try to make a big stretch here, but I often tell the story, and some of the listeners have already heard this, back in the 2008 timeframe when we had the last big financial crisis in America. Employment went into double digits. People had lost their jobs. People that had worked for 20 and 30 years were losing jobs, and they had never been in a job hunt before. So I started an organization to help them do that. And one of the quick things we got into, I was challenging people that before they started writing a resume to go hunt for another job, to sit and assess their accomplishments. Start listing the things that you've been a part of and had a hand in your career. It's not about the company you work for, not even about the industry per se, but just sort of your piece of it. What did you do? And I quickly came to the realization you said, most people look at their own accomplishments and they don't think much of it. They think, well, that's what I was supposed to do, or that was just natural for me. So back in the day, he was still at his prime. Tiger Woods was still smacking golf balls everywhere and winning all the tournaments. And I said, Tiger's not impressed by a 330-yard drive. I would be impressed if I could hit a golf ball 330 yards. Tiger is worried whether that 330 yards lands within a foot of the spot he's aiming at.
Right.
That's his measure of success.
Yeah.
I'm back at the tee box going, can I make it to 330? And I don't care where it is out there.
Yeah. And so that beautiful example, because all of us are a tiger in some form or fashion in our life. We all have that space where we know how to do this one thing really well. Honestly, Doug, I'm horrible at just about everything else. I just know how to teach people how to build masterminds. That's just my thing. So I would have paid Tiger to teach me how to hit a ball consistently 330 yards in a 50-foot zone, because he could teach that all day long.
Right.
And not even get close to his zone of genius, which is totally fine. I would be crushing all my friends if I could just do that. And that's where all of us have that space where we might not realize we're so good at something. We don't realize that everybody else would pay us to only be half as good as we are.
Yeah.
And one of the things, Doug, the people who build masterminds that I see, we see tons of people come through our programs. It's all over the place. I'm always fascinated by the cool skill sets people have. We have people who run Airbnbs. They're like the special host on Airbnb. We do a lot of Airbnbs. We have people who run Airbnbs teaching masterminds on how to build Airbnbs. We have people who are out there building marketing companies, teaching people how to podcast on like, I mean, you teach small business owners in your zone of genius how to like totally own that business and quit being the day in, day out implementer and being the CEO. What a brilliant thing to do as a group. Like there's so many cool things that people teach. And I just love seeing people honestly handing their information off to the next generation. I don't mean age generation. I mean the next iteration of the person who's going to take up that knowledge and do something even cooler with it. That's super cool.
Yeah. That's definitely the driver, I think. And, you know, I frequently run into the phrase when I start talking to people about leadership development, especially among the younger generations, they're hungry for this notion, how can I make a difference? You know, I'm in this world for a reason. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm kind of struggling with it. I'm kind of working on it, but I know in my heart I want to make a difference. And then you get into the discussion about, okay, what can that difference be? And I think that's what you're saying. You know, it could be in so many different areas. There's so many different answers to that question.
Doug, I wish I was more altruistic than I am, but I'm just an entrepreneurist. I'm just a capitalist. I just like building machines that are businesses, right? I got into masterminding early on because I saw it as the most effective way. I'd already figured out how to get my life back and not work a whole lot and make a lot of money. I saw it as the most effective way to make a lot of money in the info selling space with the least amount of time. And that proved to be the case. Really glad I got good advice about that.
Now,
I was going to
go
say, but I have learned and grown. I'm 45 now. I've matured enough to realize the bills are paid. I'm not worried about the money now. It's more the like, I actually like investing in other people's lives. And I wish I had caught on to that in my 20s. Because I think the heart you're representing makes a bigger impact and has a longer term success run, even for the entrepreneur, than just my greedy capitalist young mind when I was starting it out.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you. And I think at the end of the day, well, I'll share something very specifically. There's a book that I was introduced to many, many years ago, and I was so thankful I was. It's written by a guy named Bob Buford, and the book is called Halftime.
I've read that book.
So you know it. And the premise of it is this: we spend our first half of our life struggling for success. We want to maybe climb the corporate ladder or build a business up to a certain level or pad our bank account by X dollars or, whatever the measure is, doesn't matter. We focus on that. But there comes a time in life when you make a pivot and you realize that maybe all of that is nice, but there's still something missing. And so you move from success in the first half to significance in the second half. Mm-hmm. Significance can be defined as just that. What difference can you make in this world? You know, who can you serve? Who can you help? Who can you nurture and grow? And it's such a powerful, of course, he, as the title suggests, he uses the sports analogy of a team, going in the locker room at halftime. They've had their butts kicked in the first half, and now they got to make an assessment and figure out how to change their game plan to come out and win the second half. And no disrespect, but in the 40-45 range, you might not even be quite to that halftime moment yet, but
I want to be mature and reasonable in my thinking. So I hope I am, but I want to live a long time. So I hope I'm not.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it arrives at different times for different people, but I can promise you, I deal with a lot of my clients that are in their 50s. They're starting to creep in and look over that edge and say, I don't know what I've got left, but I think I want to do something different. I want to, recalibrate my focus, my energy, and my commitment to this world. And, maybe that's family, maybe it's, neighborhood, maybe it's community, church, whatever. But my point is, I've been around long enough and done enough circles around the sun myself that I promise you it happens for everybody. Everybody has that moment when they ask that question.
I'm glad to hear that, because I want to get, I guess I want to grow in wisdom. This is a fun podcast, man. I'm hardly ever this open on these, not because I'm, it just gets to my heart. I just want to be, I want to be wise. And unfortunately, I think some of that comes with years. And I wish that as a 20-something, I had more wisdom. I was sitting on our front porch recently talking to Jill, just my wife. We were kind of between summer trips. And I said, I wish I had been mentored earlier on. I get mentored a lot now, and I pay for mentorship now. I pay to be in masterminds. But I would have grown so much faster, not just in quote unquote success, but in my own mindset and the methodology and the way that I approach the world. And I wish I had started some of these things as a human, not as a businessman, just a human, 10, 20 years earlier.
Yeah. Well, I know my listeners have heard this from me a lot, but I tell a story. I'm a huge champion of the idea of mentorship. I had the privilege of being raised by a single mom who had the wisdom to surround me with mentors when I was little. I mean, starting in Boy Scouts and into Little League and on past that. And it became, it's just an automatic part of my life. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I was talking on another episode this morning. I'm going to be 70 next year, and I still have mentors. I've got 3 guys that I've got a 70, 80, and 90-year-old guy that, that are mentors to me still to this day. In fact, I was talking to the 75-year-old guy yesterday. We had a situation that I needed help with, and he was right on the spot, and, great advice, great counsel. And I'm a fan. And I'll probably say goodbye to my mentors on my dying bed. I don't know if they outlive me, but I can't stress it enough. It's such a huge value add for life.
What an excellent example. And we could have a whole nother episode on that, because that's a hard code to crack for a lot of folks, just knowing how to find the right mentors. For me, I've gone the mastermind path. I've hired people to be mentors, but I know there are so many people out there who would just mentor just because they want to see somebody else succeed. And that's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chris, this has been awesome. And we're about on our time slice here. Tell people how they can get a hold of you if they're looking for more ideas on this.
Absolutely. Number one, just reach out to Doug, folks. You're listening to Doug. If you're trying to figure out how to become that CEO in your business, obviously you got your guy. Let me just say that one more way. If you've already spent this time listening to Doug and you've spent other time listening to his episodes, you trust him. He's a really cool guy to talk to. Like, drop him a line. I'm sure he'd be willing to help. About me, groupcoachnation.com. If you want to figure out how to build a mastermind, if you're like, dang it, I know I'm an expert in something and I want to sort this out quickly, go to groupcoachnation.com and drop us a line. We got a ton of information there. You can read all about it, but ultimately just reach out. We'll talk to you.
Well, we'll have all that information in the show notes if you didn't catch it on the fly. And Chris, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us, dropping in.
It's been a privilege. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and good luck on your travels. And I'm a little envious. I haven't quite pivoted I'll be honest, I haven't quite pivoted my business that way, partly because my wife drives me crazy on this, and in a very good way. I just have too much fun doing what I'm doing right now. And I want to do these other things. And I do have a couple of masterminds going, but I'm not really pushing that as a dimension or a pivot in my business. So I may take that under advisement here based on our call. So,
well, have fun if you get to travel. It's such a great, I love it. Oh my gosh. Love it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And folks, I want to remind you that if you're listening this on your favorite streaming service, we do have a video version over on a YouTube channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Can't believe I almost forgot that, but I guess it's the age thing kicking in. But no, it's been a pleasure being with you, and stay tuned. We certainly hope to see you again soon. Take care. And
you've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.